The chamber is silent. Dark stone walls, cold. A man sits alone, his hands steady despite the hemlock waiting at his side. Outside, Athens burns with the fever of emotion. Inside, Socrates speaks his final words, not of fear, not of gods and superstition, but of reason, of truth that exists beyond the flesh, beyond the senses, beyond death itself. This is where it begins. The belief that the human mind, armed with nothing but logic and reflection, can pierce through the fog of appearance to grasp reality as it truly is. This is rationalism, not a religion, not a political movement, a method, a wager, a conviction that reason is the supreme tool of understanding, capable of discovering truths that no eye can see and no hand can touch, and the consequences would reshape the world, long before laboratories, long before telescopes, before the printing press or the university. Ancient Greece gave birth to something extraordinary. Philosophers gathered in marketplaces and academies, armed with nothing but questions. They looked at the world and refused to accept myths as answers. Socrates walked the streets of Athens and demanded definitions. What is justice? What is virtue? What is knowledge itself? His method was ruthless, question after question, peeling away assumptions until his opponents stood naked before their own ignorance. He taught that knowledge was not a collection of facts whispered by priests or inherited from ancestors. Knowledge was something you arrived at through disciplined thinking. Then came Plato. He went further, much further. Plato believed that everything we see is merely a shadow. The real world exists elsewhere, he claimed. A realm of perfect forms, perfect circles, perfect justice, perfect beauty. These forms are eternal, unchanging, knowable only through reason, not through the senses. The physical world deceives us. Our eyes lie, our ears mislead. Only the mind can access truth. This was the foundation. The first systematic argument that reason stands above experience, that the intellect can grasp realities invisible to the body. For centuries, this idea would sleep. The Roman Empire would rise and fall. Christianity would dominate Europe, blending faith with fragments of ancient philosophy. But the seed remained, waiting. The 17th century arrived like thunder. Europe was transforming. The old order trembled. The Catholic Church's authority was crumbling under the weight of the Reformation. Science was awakening. Galileo gazed at the stars. Newton began unlocking the mathematics of motion. And in this chaos, three men would take rationalism to heights Plato could never have imagined. René Descartes sat alone in a stove-heated room in Germany, tormented by doubt. How could he know anything with certainty? His senses had deceived him before. Dreams felt real while dreaming. What if everything was illusion? He questioned everything, his body, the world, God himself. And then in that chamber of radical skepticism, he found his bedrock. I think, therefore I am. The one thing he could not doubt was that he was doubting. Thought itself was undeniable proof of existence. From this single certainty, Descartes built an entire system. He argued that God's existence could be proven through reason alone, that the laws of nature could be derived from first principles, like theorems in geometry. Mathematics became his model. Clear, distinct, certain. The mind, Descartes proclaimed, is the true instrument of knowledge. But two others would push even harder. Baruch Spinoza was a Jewish lens grinder in Amsterdam, excommunicated by his community for his radical ideas. He took Descartes' rationalism and forged it into something more extreme. Spinoza believed that everything that exists is part of one infinite substance he called God or nature. The universe is a vast logical system, operating according to necessary laws. Freedom is an illusion. Everything that happens must happen, and all of it can be understood through reason alone. His masterwork, the Ethics, was written in the style of Euclidean geometry. Axioms, definitions, propositions, proofs. Philosophy transformed into mathematics. Spinoza believed that if we could see the universe as God sees it, we would understand that everything is necessary, perfect, and rational. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz was a polymath, diplomat, mathematician, philosopher. He invented calculus independently of Newton. He codified laws. He designed calculating machines. And he believed that the entire universe could be described through logic. Leibniz argued that there are two kinds of truths: truths of reason, which are necessary and hold in all possible worlds, like mathematical theorems, and truths of fact, which are contingent, like the existence of a particular tree or the outcome of a battle. But even these contingent truths follow from sufficient reason. Nothing happens without a reason why it must be so. He imagined a universal language of logic, a calculus ratiocinator, that could resolve all disputes through computation. No more wars, no more theological battles, just calculation. This was rationalism at its zenith, the belief that reality itself is rational, that the cosmos operates according to principles accessible to the human mind. That reason, properly applied, can unlock everything, but a counterforce was building. While the rationalists reigned on the European continent, across the English Channel, a different philosophy emerged. John Locke rejected the idea of innate knowledge. He argued that the human mind at birth is a blank slate, a tabula rasa. All knowledge comes from experience, from sensation, from observation. There are no truths written into the soul at birth. Everything we know, we learned by interacting with the world. David Hume went even further. He took empiricism to its logical extreme and discovered something unsettling. If all knowledge comes from experience, then we cannot know anything with certainty. We assume the sun will rise tomorrow because it always has, but we have no rational justification for this belief. Causation itself, the foundation of science, is just a habit of mind, not a necessary truth. The battle lines were drawn. Rationalists insisted that reason reveals necessary truths independent of experience. Empiricists countered that all knowledge must be tested against observation and experiment. The debate raged across the 18th century, shaping the development of philosophy, science, and politics. But the tension was productive. Modern science emerged from the fusion of both approaches. Scientists needed reason to formulate theories and mathematics to express laws. But they also needed experimentation and observation to test those theories against reality. And then came a mind brilliant enough to synthesize the conflict. Immanuel Kant stood at the crossroads. He admired the rationalists' confidence in reason, but he respected the empiricists' caution about experience, and he saw that both sides were partly right and partly wrong. Kant argued that knowledge requires both reason and experience. The mind is not passive. It does not simply absorb data from the senses. Instead, the mind actively structures experience. It imposes categories like causation, time, and space onto the raw material of sensation. We can never know things as they are in themselves, Kant said, only as they appear to us through the lens of our mental categories. But this does not mean knowledge is impossible. It means knowledge is the result of a collaboration between mind and world. This synthesis transformed philosophy. It acknowledged the power of reason without claiming it could grasp ultimate reality independent of experience. It respected empirical observation without reducing all knowledge to mere sensation. And it opened the door to a new era. The 18th century exploded with rationalist ambition. The French encyclopedists declared war on superstition. Voltaire mocked religious authority and championed rational thought. Rousseau preached faith in human reason and the inherent goodness of human nature. Diderot insisted that only phenomena grounded in nature deserve philosophical attention. Reason became a weapon against tyranny, against the arbitrary authority of kings and priests. If all humans possess reason, then all humans possess dignity. If truth is accessible through logic rather than revelation, then no church can monopolize knowledge. The Enlightenment ideals fueled revolutions. The American Revolution declared self-evident truths discovered by reason. The French Revolution proclaimed liberty, equality, and fraternity, concepts rooted in rationalist philosophy. But reason unmoored from tradition proved dangerous. The French Revolution devoured its own children. The Reign of Terror demonstrated that reason alone, without wisdom or compassion, can justify atrocity. Rationalism revealed its dark side. The belief that abstract principles justify any action, no matter how brutal, if it serves a logical goal. The Enlightenment's legacy is double-edged. It gave humanity the tools to challenge oppression and advance science, but it also seeded ideologies that claimed rational certainty while crushing dissent. Rationalism did not fade, it transformed. In mathematics and logic, rationalism thrives. Pure reason remains the method. Theorems are proven through deduction, not experiment. Geometry, calculus, set theory, all built on axioms and inference. In computer science, Leibniz's dream came true. Machines now operate on formal logic. Algorithms follow rules with perfect consistency. Artificial intelligence is rationalism incarnate. Systems that process information according to mathematical principles within human precision. But here too a problem emerges. AI operates through formal rationality, rigid rules, and quantitative calculations. Human thought involves substantive rationality, values, context, moral judgment. Machines can optimize. They can calculate. But they struggle to understand meaning in the way humans do. This reveals rationalism's enduring limitation. Reason is powerful, but it is not everything. Logic can manipulate symbols flawlessly, yet miss the essence of what those symbols represent. A machine can predict behavior patterns but cannot grasp the lived experience behind those patterns. Science, meanwhile, embodies the marriage of rationalism and empiricism. Theoretical physics begins with mathematical models, rationalist frameworks that describe reality. But those models must be tested against observation and experiment. Theories that fail empirical tests, no matter how elegant, are discarded. The most successful knowledge systems blend both approaches. Rationalism provides structure, coherence, and predictive power. Empiricism provides grounding, correction, and contact with reality. But the rationalist impulse remains strong in human culture. We crave systems, explanations, universal principles that make sense of chaos. From political ideologies to economic theories to ethical frameworks, we build rational structures and defend them with logical arguments. Sometimes this serves us well, sometimes it blinds us to complexity, to the messy particularities that resist neat categorization. Rationalism is more than a historical curiosity. It is a commitment, a belief that the universe is intelligible, that patterns exist, that the human mind can grasp them. Without this belief, science would be impossible. Mathematics would be a game without significance. Philosophy would collapse into pure skepticism. But rationalism also carries risks, the temptation to mistake the map for the territory, to believe that because something is logical, it must be true, to ignore evidence that contradicts a beautiful theory. History is littered with rationalist failures, ideologies built on premises that seemed self-evident but led to suffering, economic models that predicted behavior perfectly in theory but crumbled against human irrationality, ethical systems that justified cruelty through impeccable logic. The tension between rationalism and its alternatives never fully resolves. Each generation must negotiate it anew. How much should we trust reason? How much should we trust experience, intuition, tradition, emotion? The answer is never simple, but the question endures because the stakes are absolute. Rationalism shaped the modern world. It gave us the scientific method, human rights, democratic ideals, and technological civilization. It also gave us ideological fanaticism, the illusion of total control, and the hubris to believe we can engineer perfection. We are the inheritors of this legacy. Every time we construct an argument, every time we demand evidence, every time we insist on consistency and coherence, we are enacting the rationalist tradition. Every time we dismiss lived experience because it contradicts our theories, every time we prioritize abstract principles over human consequences, we repeat rationalism's errors. The history of rationalism is the history of humanity, his attempt to understand itself and its world through the power of thought. It is a chronicle of triumphs and catastrophes, of insights and delusions, and it is far from over. Machines grow smarter every year. Algorithms decide who gets loans, who gets jobs, who gets arrested. They operate on formal rationality, flawless logic, pure reason uncontaminated by emotion or bias, or so we are told. But what happens when rationality, perfected and mechanized, encounters the irrational complexity of human life? What happens when reason, freed from the messiness of human judgment, makes decisions that are logically impeccable but morally catastrophic? The rationalists believed reason could save us. The empiricists warned that experience must temper theory. Kant tried to reconcile them, but none of them could have imagined a world where reason itself becomes automated, where machines think faster and more consistently than any human ever could. Are we building the rationalist utopia? Or are we repeating the Enlightenment's mistake, believing that logic alone can guide us to truth and justice? The question is not academic. The answer will determine what kind of world we inhabit, and the clock is ticking.